Is this thing record? Yes, it's recording. Good. My name is Dr. Gab. I I have a hobby as a YouTuber, and I made some videos in the past, short Minecraft videos, when I was still very much invested in Minecraft. Still am, to an extent. I just don't have it on with me anymore. But boy, with the details. I'm going to discuss unusual topic today. I'm going to discuss well the naming reasons and the different countries and such in the British Isles and the United Kingdom and Ireland. You see, I generally find lots of people get mixed up. Even I used to do it, like with the difference between Britain and England. Well, you see, the history is well, the first proper English king was William the Conqueror, or before that, William the Bastard, since he was an illegitimate child of French nobility from Normandy in France. You see, he took control of England. I don't know the exact date. You can search it for yourselves. Sorry. But he took control of England and replaced the Anglo-Saxon, original English, with French nobility, and French sort of became high class standard stuff because it was cultured, since France was the pinnacle of European sophistication, society, and culture at the time. And so William the Conqueror, as he is now known, married and had children. And then eventually, you see, England at this point had territory in France, and the current king, I'm not sure who it was, I can't remember, but you see, his lands were taken from him, his French lands were taken from the king at the time, and so they didn't like that very much, the English French nobility, and so they went to war, 100 years war, if you will. I find it somewhat ironic. They view the French as a sympathetic cause, like with Joan of Arc, even though I kind of view her as like somewhat crazy fanatic. I'm a Christian, I like Christianity, I just don't like fanatics in any sense, religious or political or such, but that's my opinion. It's not truth, it's just opinion for me. You can have your own opinions. Wait, what was I talking about again? Oh, yes, I was talking about, you see, England wanted to reclaim their land, and so, obviously it failed, as we know, because the French won, with, like, being spurred on with Joan of Arc and her burning. And so, but it helped define England, as it were, and became more English than French. And so, eventually, they went on a lot of wars with Scotland. I'm sure many of you have seen Braveheart and what I'm talking about. I haven't seen Braveheart. I don't really care about Mel Gibson that much, and besides, it's very historically inaccurate. But I won't get into the details of the inaccuracies. But anyway, they went to war tons and tons of times, and you see, England went into the War of the Roses, where the Lancasters and the what is the other house called? I guess the House of York went to war, where the Lancasters, was it the Lancasters? It was Henry VIII's father, Henry VII, that won the war, and had Henry VIII, but before that he had Arthur, but he died, and so Henry VIII was king. And, he had 6 wives, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, as the old rhyme goes. And so he eventually had, as his second child, living, Elizabeth the First, the Virgin Queen. And she was cousins with the Scottish Queen, Mary Stuart of Scots, who went into hiding in France for a lot of time. She didn't have a Scottish accent, she had a French accent. And you see, since she had no heirs, and technically, even though she beheaded Mary Stuart of Scots for treason, which, is kind of true, she was the godmother of King James the First / Sixth. Sixth, since there was lots of King Jameses in Scotland, and first, since there was only one King James in Scotland. He was king of both countries, but he wasn't yet there was no Great Britain or UK yet. The countries weren't combined yet, although Wales and most of Ireland were annexed, annexed, I think it's annexed by England, where eventually in 1701, Scotland, Wales, and England became Great Britain in the Acts of Union, where we get the flag now. Apart from the red cross in the middle, I forgot to mention the flags. Wales's flag is white, green with a red dragon in the middle. England's all flag was white with a red cross, a red plus sign going all the way through, and Scotland was a blue flag with a white X going through. And eventually, about 100 years later, Ireland became part of the UK, as it's now called, and empires all across the world becoming the world's greatest empire, biggest. Britannia rules the waves, as they said, and the sun will never on the British Empire. They actually still have a few colonies and have Commonwealth, so the sun hasn't technically set yet, but it practically has. But anyway, the Irish had the potato famine and they didn't like being oppressed by the English, the Wales, and the Scots. I forgot to mention the Civil War. It doesn't matter. Monarchy, Civil War, no monarchy. Then the monarchy was restored. And also, during when there was a reign with no monarchy, they were also oppressed by the current government, the Lord Protector Oliver Cromwell. I mean, he protected democracy in Parliament, which is great, but he was a Puritan lunatic. Nothing against Puritans, I just think they're very strict. But anyway, and so when Ireland joined the UK, that's where the red X came in. And so, well, Ireland really did not like being part of the UK. They wanted their own independence. There were many protests and uprisings, like the East Uprising in 1918, where Lord Dunsany, he was a writer that fought in World War One, or well, he fought in the Boer War and he was involved in World War One, to put it more correctly. He was a writer. He wrote. He basically could say he was the first person to have, I guess you could say, have a mythology in his stories. It's like he's like the Tolkien mythology, like he inspired Tolkien and Lovecraft, which is impressive. He created his own mythology in his books. I can't remember the name. It was like, I'm very sorry if I seem like an idiot. I just can't remember these things. I don't have that great of a memory for certain things, but he created his own mythology, which was inspired by the style of the King James Bible and Greek mythology. So he was basically, he inspired Tolkien, as I said. Well, that's besides the point. The point was that Ireland didn't like being a part of the UK, and later on, they succeeded from the Union before World War Two, but after World War One, and so they became their own independent republic, and they became they sort of currently today they have lots of aid programs helping distribute food and support in famished and countries stricken with poverty because they've been through the same thing, so they're sort of sympathetic towards countries because they're in the same boat, so they help. Good on you, Ireland. And so, well, you see, North Ireland, as I'm pretty sure you'll see on any modern map, is still part of the UK. It's like the UK consists of England, Wales, North Ireland, and Scotland. And so basically, the main difference between the rest of Ireland and North Ireland was very Protestant, where the rest of Ireland was Catholic. And these caused the Troubles, where terrorist organizations would attack and start fires and blow things up, standard terrorism things, until later on the Good Friday Agreement came, where there would be no hard border between the country. There are still technically different countries, but they're Irish. There's no hard border between them. Oh, wait a second, Brexit. That's one of the main reasons why Brexit took so long for. I trying to find a way to not not soil the Good Friday Agreement, make it null and void. I don't know if they succeeded because apparently Britain did leave the EU. Hard border, it's going to be very interesting. And so this is where we are today. The UK was that lots of people view, like, say, Queen Victoria or Queen Elizabeth II as like, ah, yes, English queens, but they're British queens. There hasn't been an English queen since Queen Anne. And it's ironic because Napoleon, if I'm going to use an example, it's going to tie back to the British Isles. Those are what all the islands are called. Ireland, the other part, Scotland, Wales, and England, that part, and the man of, and all the other islands are the British Isles. The UK is just North Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. But it was like, yes, Napoleon, he was from Corsica, not France. But he's the greatest French emperor, and his enemy, the greatest British general at his day, Lord Wellington, was from Ireland. He didn't have an Irish accent. He'd have been, I would have been beaten out of him when he was a child. But the main purpose of this video, as I said, was to explain how the UK, like we have the British Isles, as I said, all of Ireland, Wales, England, and Scotland, but the UK is just North Ireland, Wales, England, and Scotland. Unless independence comes from, say, England and North Ireland. One thing I've got to mention about the Good Friday Agreement, North Ireland can secede from the Union anytime they want, but they haven't. So I guess time will tell until an election comes over and we'll see whether or not they want to leave the Union, well, along with Scotland. But this is not a video on the future. This was a old video about me explaining the past, sort of. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you could follow my ramblings and almost nonsensical, non-structured way of doing this. I didn't have a script. This is all on the top of my head, on my knowledge I already knew. Anyway, this has been Dr. Gab signing off. Cheerio.